You're listening to Zen and the Art of Endurance, your podcast for getting great at going long.
Hey there, all you freaks and geeks, and welcome to another great episode of Zen and the Art of Endurance, the podcast where we go long and learn a lot about ourselves along the way. Well, Endurance Gang, we have so many different things to cover. It's been a little while since I've done an audio podcast. We have gone deep into doing video, and the payoff is huge because a lot of that video I can bring back into the audio version, and I'm going to talk about that a whole lot more here in a minute. But just a quick introduction. My name is Coach Brett. I've been doing Ironmans and long distance everything, and short distance too, forever. It seems like 20, 30 years, and have been podcasting about it since 2005. I've got 15 Ironmans under my belt, an Ultraman, 22-mile Lake Tahoe crossing all in one shot of a marathon swimming, and 100-mile trail run, ultra marathon, and a whole bunch of 50-milers and all kinds of random stuff, and lots of gravel racing, the long distance stuff. And yeah, that's me. And I'm also a coach, a dad, and I work a full-time job. And I am here to help you figure out how to do this stuff so that you can live your own life in the happiest, absolute, most wonderful way possible, which is doing endurance sports. And I've been taking you guys along with me since 2005, audio version on all my training and racing, all kinds of fun stuff, and also doing interviews and giving you my own coaching insights and the latest news and training methods and all that. And we're definitely still doing all that. But on top of that, I decided a couple of years ago that I needed to start getting into YouTube, and it just takes a while to figure out how to do it, how to get all the equipment and start filming. But we are at the point now where I'm able to create more video content than I know what to do with. And so now we got to start figuring out what actually we're going to put out as video, what we're going to do as audio, and how to get the content in both places, or what type goes where. And I strongly encourage you to go over to the YouTube channel, which is Zen Endurance with Coach Brett. Again, that's Zen Endurance with Coach Brett. And sometimes it'll come up as Zen Endurance with Coach Brett. All one word, Zen Endurance. And go look at the YouTube videos and the shorts. And YouTube is the future because, well, it's not the future, it's the current, present, and the future, because it is the easiest way to publish stuff and get the most eyeballs on things, and also make this sustainable, because people are now looking for video first and then an audio companion later. You think about Joe Rogan and Rich Roll and all these different podcasts. Well, they've always got a video version of it, right? So a while back, I figured out, well, we'll do a video version where I take the camera with me riding, just like I used to take the audio recorder with me riding and do a show and record that and talk about all the different topics. And then the video version of it will just be like the same thing. I'll take you on a ride with me. We'll talk about all these different topics. Turns out it's a little bit different because with video, you get different stuff going on. So I'm figuring out that they might be like two different styles of show, where the video one is kind of lighthearted and fun and we're showing what we're doing, and then the audio version is where we can sit like right now and talk in detail about things, where we can dive a little bit deeper on topics. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on here on the audio version. Because if you've only been listening to the audio version, or this is your first time ever coming across Zen in the Art of Endurance or Zen in the Art of Triathlon, then we've got a lot of catching up to do. The biggest things going on is Kai and I, Kai's my son, and he races pro division mountain bike and gravel racing. And he and I are going to do a bike packing trip, an overnight 2-day bike packing trip on the Texas Overland Trail, which is out in the hill country. And it's going to be about 200 miles. And we're going to camp on an island in the middle of a river overnight. And we've never done a bike packing overnight trip. I had an attempt where I did the East Texas 400 and my bike broke in the night on day one, and I had to get plucked out of the woods using a GPS tracker for them to come find me. And I was really bummed about that because I was going to do 400 miles over like 3 days or 2 days. I don't know, who knows how long it was going to take. My rear derailleur snapped off. And then it really drove my interest in like, this is really freaking cool, because with all the Ironman experience, like going long distance is a skill, and spending 2 decades figuring out how to do this stuff. It's such a fun thing to know how to do and then go out there and then actually try to do it. And Kai and I, the past few years, have been racing. He's big into mountain biking and gravel racing, so I would go with him. And we've been doing marathon mountain biking and gravel racing, and usually the longest versions of each. And I think the longest version gravel race might be 180 miles or something. Gravel Locos one year was about that long. And it is wild. It's really, really hard. And marathon mountain biking is really difficult too, because imagine the abuse that your body takes of mountain biking. Now do it like 5 times the distance that a normal mountain bike. Well, I'm over like 3 times, but they're like 60 something miles of mountain biking. And it's an actual like world circuit thing that they do. There's marathon mountain biking world championships around the world and nationals and such. And oh my gosh, it's so much fun. And let's see, we both had the same gravel bike brand. They're called Vast. And then mine, the frame cracked and I got it warrantied. The parent company owns Niner. And so Niner sent me a Niner. And I was able to upgrade with the Niner to a wider rear tire. And that's been the limitation on these bikes, is only a 42 millimeter rear tire. And if you know things about gravel, that used to be a lot. And nowadays that's nowhere near enough. And so I've got 50 millimeter front and rear on my Niner. Kai's still riding his old bike because it hasn't cracked yet. And they won't warranty it until it cracks. And it's like, well, it's going to crack because there's almost a recall out for it. I've seen the behind the scenes. They're trying to issue a recall for these frames the first year. And we both have a first year edition of these frames. The years after that are fine. But anyway, so I've got a new gravel bike frame. I got my old parts off of it, but the new aero bars, and we both have power meter pedals. And then Kai has a top end Trek super caliber mountain bike that he races on. And then just to round things out, I still train all the time at somewhere between a half Ironman and an Ironman level. In case I want to go do a triathlon or an Ironman, or if I want to do a off-road marathon or something. I found that training at that level, so I do the swimming and the biking and the running all the time. And then if something comes up that somebody's like, hey, do you want to do this? I can do it, no problem. But the fun thing is gravel biking. And the cool thing about gravel biking is, besides being somewhat off-roady, so then it's like more holistic and fun and like natural, and you see all kinds of fun animals. And also there's way fewer cars, if any. Then also it's very normal in gravel to ride aero bars. So I'm training in aero bars all the time. So if I want to hop on my Trek Speed Concept Superbike and knock out a triathlon, like say I want to do a half Ironman or something like that, no problem, because I've been training in aero bars position. And then, but I'm out riding in the gravel, and we've got like all this on video on Instagram as well, not just YouTube, but on Instagram. There's this local donkey that we feed carrots to, and I'll video like me riding with other people and with Kai. And then this spring, when my bike broke, my rear derailleur broke, I pulled out an old Nishiki kind of like this all-terrain bicycle, and turned it into a single speed. And I raced and won the single speed division of a local gravel race that was pretty long. It was like 80 miles or something. Kind of out, and it wasn't exactly the hill country, but it was starting to get close to the hill country. And so yeah, that's been going on this spring. And then with the camera that I've got, it's a 3D, it's a 360 degree camera, but I wear it on my chest most of the time. That way my hands are free to like operate the bicycle. And I take it with me on rides, and I catch the craziest stuff happening out there. Between just two videos, one of a water moccasin, also known as a cottonmouth, which is very venomous and kind of dangerous snake. Between that and this one dog that tried to attack me on the bike, those two short clips together are over 4 million views of people like in the comments just going nuts, like, what in the world, this is crazy. And I catch a lot of dogs trying to chase me, and because it's a 360 camera, I kind of pan back as they come around the back and around the side. And then just see like you see crazy things out there training. And another one that's a big hit is if I'm bombing downhill in aero bars on gravel, or if it's pavement and then it turns to gravel, that really like trips people out, because there's this whole mindset that you can't ride aero bars on gravel, but you totally can. And once you do it a few times, you're like, oh yeah, this is no big deal. And so I've been filming these videos, and it's getting like really, really crazy. The response, I've got 4,000 or 5,000 followers now on YouTube, and 5 or 7 or 3 or something, I don't know, 1,000 on Instagram because of this stuff. And then also talking with some people, I figured out how to video while running with my dog. River is this big black German Shepherd mix, but the thing looks like a giant black wolf, and I run with him. And so I just start talking about stuff that I normally talk about on the podcast. And there's videos out there, peace. Oh, and also I've been doing the same thing on the bike, but I'll go for a 4-hour bike ride, and I'll talk about the difference about peace versus happiness. And you actually have to have peace first, then you can be happy, and I talk about these kind of things, and a little bit about like training methods, and also like how to deal with toxic people. And but I'll mix in some like training methods, like how to do intervals and stuff properly. And those videos, like I'll film like 3 hours out of a 4-hour bike ride, but then I need to cut that down to an hour, and it's like it's too much. I've figured out too well like how to record, and now I have too much material, so we're gonna have to start trimming back. But at the that way, because I'm recording way more than I'm publishing, and this is always like a skill and an art of like how to produce stuff and get it out there. It's one thing to film stuff and make content, but it's a second one to ship it, to deliver it. You can make stuff all day long. There's a story, an artist can paint stuff in his basement all day long, but until he puts it out into the public for the public to appreciate it, or, whatever, then he's not really an artist per se that's making a career out of it. And also, on that tangent, the other thing is, I'm very young to retire, but I just happen to be working at the same job for 20 years, and I actually technically could retire at any time because I've worked for 20 years, but I started when I was young. So the thing is I realized that with YouTube, which is a platform that is actually like a community, and you can make stuff, and there's people that actually can make, I wouldn't know, most people can't make a living off of YouTube, but you can make some supplemental income. Well, I could retire earlier if the YouTube community is going well, and I've got coaching going on, and we've got a lot of interaction and like merch and fun stuff like that. And I've always been not big into trying to be like pushy and like selling stuff and all that stuff. I mention it a lot, but it's if you want to do it, because I do this for the fun and for the art and for the hobby and the self-fulfillment of it. And I think it should just sell itself. It's such a wonderful lifestyle that I don't go too far out of my way to push it on people. I think it's obvious to me that you should like it. And if you don't like it, well, then it's just not for you. And then there's not much I can do about that. So I'm always like, I'll mention that there's a t-shirt, or back when I used to sell like a Hornet juice, or like be sponsored by somebody and put that in there, like a bike insurance or something like that. I'll mention it and stuff. And then if you're interested, then that's fine. So, because also I know that you can't predict, I've been doing this for so long. I know that you can't predict what's actually going to be a hot thing that's actually going to work or not. You just put stuff out there, and some stuff takes off and some stuff doesn't. So you shouldn't get like too emotionally attached to something. So my point being is definitely, I figured out a while back that a way for people to support is Patreon. That finally has been established as the way to support an artist that you care about or something like that, right? And also we got PayPal donation button if you want to do like one-time donations. This stuff is expensive and it takes a crap load of time. So it's nice to get a little bit of like appreciation of some sort of like, beer money or enough money to like buy spare bike parts and stuff like that. Because this is it's one of the cheaper sports, but it's also, compared to like motorcycle or car racing or something, or flying an airplane, but it still does take some money. And then the computers and the time and the camera and all that other stuff. So, and traveling and hotel and race fees or whatever we're doing. So anyway, patreon.com is where I figured out that we will put stuff for members only. And then members, I think it's $5 a month is what I set it at. It might be $4, but $5, let's say it's $5 a month. And in there, I've already started putting in members only stuff. And so if you want to see, for example, I made a 30-minute video of what Kai and I's bike adventure is exactly going to be, with the map and the routes and all that other stuff. And then you can go check that out there, but that's behind the paywall per se. But then also at the same time, I think people should eventually get it anyway. It's just like early, early access, and then I'll mention it on Instagram. And by the way, I'm Zen Triathlon on Instagram. I'll mention it on Instagram or mention it on YouTube, that you can get this video that I've made, or this content or an article or some coaching tip or something like that I've made behind patreon.com/ZenTri. And that's where you can get early release stuff. And I've got a few things up there now that's early release. And so that way it's worth it if you pay now. But I'm so in on this. This is exactly what we're doing, because you also need to have some sort of like system, that's sustainable to keep this up. It's what I do at work, is I manage this big system. And long ago, I figured out, it's got to be sustainable and reinforcing, like anti-fragile is a good phrase for this stuff, and self-reinforcing. And so a trick is to make a video or make some sort of content, put it in the members only area first for like a week or two. And then while it's in there, y'all get early access to it and get to check it out. And while it's in there though, I'm still kind of like doing a few tweaks here and there of like the description and like all the little pieces. But y'all that are wanting to be members are like y'all are already super fans, or else you wouldn't be members, right? And so what you really want to do, you already know what's going on, really. You just want to see it and get the content first. And then that's like a good, like, I want to call like not fermentation, but like a good garden for the fruit to actually finally ripe. And then when it's sat there for a week or two and y'all have already seen it, then I can go, okay, yeah, I actually want to change the title of it just a little bit or whatever. And then I can turn the settings on it to be viewable by everybody. And then it goes into just like the regular YouTube stuff, right? And the other thing is I was looking for a way to have some sort of fun merchandise for the next year or so, of something that's interesting and like I said, fun, and a good topic that is memorable, and it's something that we can run with for a little bit, and goes along with like how to train at this level. Because you should, if you make a YouTube channel, what you should do is offer some sort of insight or advice or whatever, and you give it out for free for everybody. But if somebody wants a little bit more than what's free for everybody, then they could buy the merch, or they could buy the members only stuff, or a coaching call, or pay for coaching or something like that. And that's like 5% of people or whatever. But then that ends up paying for everything that all these people that see stuff for free, they're just kind of casual and they come and go. And the thing I came across lately that just blew my mind is there's this way of doing things called SlowMaxxing. And it's basically not doing things as slowly as you can, and not this mindfulness stuff that's being overplayed, but it's doing things with purpose and intentionality, and doing things more slowly so that you enjoy them more, and not trying to rush through things. And the payback is unbelievable, like how much better your life is, and the quality, it's like not running in the rain for no reason. You're still going to get pretty much the same amount of wet. It's not training so hard, that you end up blowing yourself up. It goes back and forth between like training and then daily life. It's at work, when somebody hands you, hey, I need you to do this for me, and you taking ownership of the situation and saying, no, well, okay, thanks. I'll get to it when I get to it, and standing up for yourself and doing things more calmly and more professionally, and not rushing through things. Because what's going on in the world a lot lately is just the stress and the overstimulation of everything by social media, and just thinking that everybody has to keep up with it. People are just exhausted. So it's like slow everything down. It's kind of a version of like minimalism, sort of, but valuing your own time, and also going more slowly to do things, and also appreciating doing things more slowly. Just off the top of my head, two things that aren't like triathlon or endurance or biking related are we've got a fence between us and our neighbor that the dogs on the other side, they bite at each other, they act ridiculous. And some boards have broken, and I'm replacing one board at a time. And Emily is like, we should replace the whole fence. And I'm like, no, I'm actually kind of enjoying this, because eventually the whole fence is going to get replaced. It's an older fence, so the boards that get broken are the older boards. And there's this whole thing with, it's the Greek ship. It's not Archimedes. I forgot what it's, Theseus ship. But the dogs are barking at somebody out there. But the whole thing, if you have a ship, it's an old Greek like logic question, riddle. At what point, if you replace a board, and then you replace a mast, and then you replace some railings on the ship, and eventually, by the time you replace every board on the at what point is it a new ship, basically? Or is it when you replace half the stuff? Is it when you replace like the superstructure of the ship and the mast? Is it when you replace all the boards on the outside? That's the ship. And you think that this is kind of some old Greek thing and it doesn't really matter. Well, I'm living this right now with this fence that's out there, And at what point is it going to be a new fence? Because as I replace one board after the other, about one board every couple weeks, they'll break another board and then I'll go out there and replace it. And it's funny because the new board, it's not where you can see it from the street. It's just between us and the neighbors, and they don't really care. And so like the new board, new boards look different, and they're not weathered yet. So you could totally tell it's a new board. And they're just kind of like, there's like 6 of them or so, like right now in 100 boards that are just kind of there. And then also with my bike, when I got my frame warrantied, I got a brand new frame and fork. Okay, so then I moved out, and Kai's a bike mechanic now at REI while he's going to college, which is also another cool development. And and at the bike shop, he has access to use the bike shop all he wants. And for when we do our bike packing adventure, he doesn't get the gear for free, but he's got a whole lot better insight and selection of gear to look at because he's there all the time. He'd be like, oh, we should use this and we should use that. And is this bike a new bike? Because I replaced the frame, right? But I took almost everything else on the bike is the old bike. The drivetrain, the wheels, the handlebars, the shifting, the brakes, seat post I bought. But then you're like, oh, but the aero bars are new, period. And the saddle's new. But also on the drivetrain, I've been through a set of pedals and a set, maybe 2 cassettes on it, maybe more. And like several chains and then brake pads. So is it the original bike anymore? Or is it some other bike? A new bike with a new frame. And what's funny is the geometry on the bike is almost exactly the same. So it rides almost exactly the same. So like it really kind of messes with you. Like I'll say that this is my new bike, but I'm like, well, it's just the frame. Everything else on it's exactly the same. So it feels exactly the same. So what is it? And if you know this podcast well, you know that we talk about the philosophy of things and why are we doing this kind of stuff, and also the things that we observe along the way. Because when you do long distance endurance stuff, you have a lot of time to think, and it's a self-improvement program. And what I figured out early on, because there was these talks on podcasts when podcasts were new by Zen masters. Those were some of the very earliest stuff. They've been doing, Zen masters have been doing a talk, for 1,000 years. And so they've already been recording them for 100 years. And so you can listen to these. And so they just started putting them out as podcasts. So Zen is a way of thinking that is based on Buddhism, and Buddhism is the original psychology. It's 2,500 years old, and it's about like realizing that your perception of things is actually most of your problem, your opinions, and if you learn to accept that, looking at it from this other point of view, or somebody else has this other point of view or whatever, and that the middle path is probably better, and that extremes aren't really healthy and make yourself miserable, and things are sometimes bad and things are sometimes good. Oh, and don't get attached to things. If you let things go, then you'll be happier, instead of carrying around a whole bunch of mental baggage and emotional baggage. And so when I first started out recording this stuff, I was also listening to this while I was on long bike rides, and I learned so much that was applicable to not only endurance training, because to go long, you have to slow down. And everything in Zen is pretty much counterintuitive. And it turns out that everything in life is pretty much counterintuitive. If you try too hard at things, you're more likely to drive people away. The famous Zen saying is, people that don't know much talk a lot, and people that don't talk too much know a lot. Everything's counterintuitive. And so you can take this stuff to work And you'll find out that it's happening like, or in your daily life and relationships and stuff. And you're like, this stuff is going on all around us all the time. So if you say less, then people actually will think more of you than if you talk too much and try to sound like a know-it-all. And the actual way to get faster at long distance endurance stuff is to slow down and train more at an easier pace and do less of the hard stuff. But then what that's so counterintuitive, but then what happens is it allows you, because you're not going as hard, it allows you to do more volume without getting worn out. And then you hit a volume level where that's what makes you so great. And yeah, these things are like things that I talk about. And so, yeah, I started videoing on the bike and talking about these things a little bit more. And so, like I said, I'm trying to figure out, I haven't made an audio podcast for a while because I've been so focused on doing the video and kind of like figuring this out. But I think I've got it down enough where I can just go out and video a ride like no problem. And now we need to turn around and get back onto making some more audio stuff. And you know how this eventually shakes out. It's another thing you learn in Zen and Buddhism and stuff is don't get too attached because things change, right? And so the way you think that you're going to do things is not always, it's almost never what actually happens. And yeah, so I've thought about doing something that's crossed my mind is on the shows doing at least 2 segments. And one is SlowMaxxing. What are some things that I've done lately that's SlowMaxxing? And the other one is all figured out. And it's when I think I've figured out something, and then we'll go back around and visit it a few weeks later and realize that how completely wrong I was, or somebody was that says that this is the right way to do things, you know? That's an endless supply of material right there. Oh, but back to the SlowMaxxing. I went ahead and I'm such a believer in this. When I told Emily what it was, I don't know if I said this earlier. She's like, oh my gosh, you've been doing this your whole life. This thing where you purposefully say, Emily will tell me to hurry up, we're going, you know, whatever. And I'll be like, I don't hurry. I don't rush. Because I've learned that just screws things up. And so, no, we're going to do things at a calm pace. And it's also kind of like when you have, like you're working at a computer and you have somebody right behind you, you know how you can't work right. So it's like, back off, you know, give me some space. And also if somebody's chasing you and you're trying to get your keys out and get it in the door, if you hurry, then you're just, horror movies are full of stuff. You know, you drop the keys, you can't do it, whatever. And in triathlon, we have people that start off too fast in the swim. They forget that it's 3 sports, and you need to look at, this is one of my training tips I give on a show, for example, look at the overall average time it takes to do one of these things. Whatever you're doing, let's say it's a triathlon, and let's say the average finishing time is a half Ironman, then it's like 6 hours, 5 hours, it depends on the person, but you know, it's gonna be about 5 hours. You need to swim like you're gonna be swimming 5 hours, right? Because you're gonna be exercising for 5 hours. So you hold back, and then you need to bike like you're gonna bike 5 hours, because when you finally get to the run, it's going to be, towards the end of that, it's going to be feeling like you ran 5 hours. And if you went any harder than that earlier on, then you're going to blow up. And also I cover news on this show, and Waco, which is just like a couple hours from here, if that, somebody died on the swim. And I one time was doing an Olympic triathlon, or maybe it was I think it was Olympic. And it was really cold water, which I don't think was the case with this one. But I was over caffeinated, and it was cold water, and caffeine will drive your blood pressure up. And the cold water shrank the wetsuit, and then you're swimming as hard as you can. And so you get, there's still always, you know, trying to figure out exactly what kind of causes this stuff. But one can be that you get an overdevelopment of blood pressure in your head, because all this blood's moving around, but then it's kind of constricted in your neck because the wetsuit can be kind of tight on your neck. And also, and so it makes the person pass out and then they drown. And in the Waco half Ironman, they had a person die on the swim. And the thing is also there's a lot of middle-aged men, hardly ever women, I think, but middle-aged men end up dying of this stuff. I think personally, based on the people that I'm around and what I see going on, there's a lot of people on medications that they don't talk about. And these medications can, plus the caffeine, or like maybe you're supposed to be on medication, but you didn't take it that day, like high your blood pressure medicine or something. But then the excitement and stuff. I'm just saying it was like 10 years ago for me. So I was like 40. And so I had to stop in the swim and let my blood pressure in my head come down a little bit. And I was like, whoa, this is nuts. I'm a very competent swimmer. I've been swimming my whole life. I'm a surfer, all this stuff. And I was a lifeguard. And I still got the whole thing where my head felt like it was going to pop off. And it never happened to me before. And it's just like a crazy circumstance of just too much caffeine, maybe. I'm trying to remember what happened, but the water was cold, too much caffeine, and it was an Olympic, and I had like my sights set on going kind of hard, and maybe winning the swim, because the rest of it was going to be like, I think it was an Xterra style triathlon. It was going to be off-road, and I had a crappy mountain bike at the time. And I'm like, my best result is just going to be try to like come out of the water first, or in the front pack would be kind of fun. So I went kind of hard, and then I had this trouble, right? So side tangent, which is also something I do on these shows a lot, because a little bit of ADHD, which also long distance endurance sports helps with, because it wears you out and then it calms you down. And you'll find that a lot of people that do long distance stuff are have ADHD, or they've overcome some sort of drug addiction, and they just need something in their life to kind of like calm them down, and have, something else to focus on that's actually healthy instead of unhealthy. So like, yeah, I'll jump around on topics sometimes, but I'll always circle back around and get back to the thing. You just have to deal with it. On this show, we call it a squirrel moment. And the thing is, I got a double squirrel moment. I was remembering, if you're totally new to the show or whatever, some of the people I've interviewed on this show, Chris McCormick, who's won Ironman World Championships, and Chrissy Wellington, who won like 4, 5, 6 times. I don't remember how many times she won. Have been guests on the show, and Mark Allen, who was 5-time Ironman World Champion. I interviewed his coach that got him those wins twice on this podcast about how to train. And lately it's been a lot of like gravel racing, because it's so interesting, because the bikes are so much fun, and it's a mega endurance thing. But the women's pro race is in Hawaii. The men's was just in Nice, France, for the last time. They're going to bring them both back to Hawaii, supposedly, I think, next year. But anyway, that's this weekend. And I strongly encourage people to watch the women's pro race. I think the pro women are the best example of age groupers' dream success. Because if you're a pro male athlete, it's kind of easy. It's way easier to make a living. And you don't really, once you get pretty good, that can be your job, and you can make a living off of it. Pro women don't, unfortunately, get paid, or they don't get the respect that the men get. And so they don't make a living usually as being a pro triathlete, or even a pro cyclist. Very few do. And so they actually do it on the side, which is very much like an age grouper. But if you've ever been in a race and race with pro women, they are so good. They just absolutely destroy you. And they are so amazing. And you're just like, wow, how do they get so good? And then it also turns out that they've got a PhD, and they're the director of the lab at whatever at MIT. And also, or they're a mom with like 3 kids, they're taking them all to practice all the time, or they're the doctor, or a physician's assistant or a lawyer. It's like, holy crap, like how are they doing this? And it's the pro women are really, really inspirational for age groupers galore, men and women, to be like, wow, they're getting this done while holding down a job and doing way more than the average person. And therefore, maybe you could too. You can learn a lot from them. Or the pro men's race, most of the pro men, they get paid enough where they'll have, if they have a side job, it's not as many, anywhere near as many of them have a real job or have to work because they make enough. Although triathlon doesn't pay very well at all anyway. So, just go with me on this one. Go watch the pro women's race. It's really inspirational. It's gonna be in Hawaii. It's gonna be this weekend. And yeah, you can hear those sirens. That's a sign to change the topic. Okay, so the last thing maybe that I want to talk about, two last things, is you can go and see the videos, Peace versus Happiness. And then I just released another one that's not on the bike, but it's on the run. And it says, sorry, Strava, I'm SlowMaxxing. And about the second half of that video, I start talking about, it's an hour long plus, and I start talking about the SlowMaxxing thing and the trap of like Strava. Everybody's trying to, do their best. Everybody goes out and runs and bikes and compares themselves to like their best times. And that's how people don't get any better. You got to go slow most of the time, so that on a day where you feel like you could do intervals, which will actually improve you, you're not too tired and you could do your intervals really good and really hard, and then go back to going slow immediately and let your body recover. And then boom, you're up a level, right? You stair-stepped up a level, and then you slow, wait for a few days. And then you'll be like, your body will be like, okay, I'm ready for more intervals. And bam, hit them again. And then you'll improve and step up another level, right? Well, you have to be okay with Strava, you're posting your stuff to Strava if you do, with the slow numbers not looking all that great, and people going, God, this guy's like really freaking slow. And so I'll post run times, 11-minute mile, because I'm running with River and he wants to stop and sniff stuff and whatever. But I run 30 miles a week. And so if I enter a 5K, I'm actually one of the faster people in the 5K because I run 30 freaking miles a week, and I do some intervals on occasion. You just don't really see it in the Strava, but you have to learn to be okay with that. And my average biking speed will be like, for a bike, just out training, just doing a long day, because it's gravel, it'll be like 15 miles an hour, 14 and a half miles an hour. And it just looks like ridiculously slow. But I'm biking like 3 or 4 times a week. And I'm biking, some of my rides are 4 hours long. And then so when I enter a race, like I won the single speed division, and single speed is freaking hard, man. You're talking no gears, and it was hilly. Like at one point we had to walk our bikes because it was so hilly. And so the whole ego trip of like having to post good results all the time because other people are watching, or you're training with the group, is a trap, right? And that's how people don't ever get good. That's how they never get beyond good to great, is you've got to learn how to slow down and slow max. And yeah, so I talk about that. And then, yeah, one of the other latest ones is, there's another one too, but happiness versus peacefulness. And then another video that I posted was called A Day of Flow. And that one is really interesting. I got up that day, and I think I had a stressful day at work the day before, and I was like, I'm going to just do things at the pace of that it takes to do them. It's kind of like SlowMaxxing. I'm going to do these at the pace that it just takes to do them. Period. I had the day off from work, and I'm like, I'm not going to do the next thing until I'm done with the first thing, the thing that I'm doing now, at the correct pace. And my whole day was just amazing. I was constantly doing stuff, but I was doing it at the pace of doing things right, instead of trying to rush through things to get to the next thing, to meet. I had the day to myself, so I didn't owe anybody anything. I didn't need to be anywhere at a certain time or anything. And wow, I was like, that video, I think I'm riding in the morning, but they continued after the video for the rest of the day. And I'm like, man, dude, people should do this one day a week, or a couple days out of the month, of have what I call a flow day, and just do things in a state of flow, do things at a pace that feels natural to you. And that was before I found out about the term SlowMaxxing. And so anyway, I found out about this term FlowMaxxing, or SlowMaxxing, sorry. We could call it FlowMaxxing too. SlowMaxxing. And I kind of came up with it on my own, because I heard some other kind of maxing thing, and I'm like, oh, I could use that. That's whatever. And then I'm like, what do I do? That's something I could talk about on the podcast. I was like, oh yeah, I'm constantly saying quality and also breaks in between things before you move on to the next thing, so that you can think, what is the right thing to do next? You stop and close your eyes and think for a minute. What is the next thing to do that's right? And not feeling, not rushing into the next thing, and owning your time and owning your space, kind of like man-spreading, but with your time. And I was like, oh, I should call it SlowMaxxing. And because it's funny, because the irony of it, slow, but maxing. And one of my friends was like, you should call it Zen maxing. And I was like, oh, I do so much of the Zen stuff already. Let's play around with a different phrase. So SlowMaxxing. And then I was like, that is such a good phrase. And like I said, Emily's like, dude, you live this. I know so much about it and I got endless notes on that we're going to talk about for 1,000 episodes of ways to do this with everything that you do, that I could really run with this for a while. And I thought, oh, I should look to see, I'm going to Google it. It turns out that actually a few years ago, somebody came up with a term, and it's kind of like minimalism, but a little bit different. And there's been some articles written about it, but very few. But the next thing I was like, I'm going to come up with a t-shirt. And then also, if I'm going to use this phrase, SlowMaxxing, then I'm going to look to see if I can buy the domain. And dude, you know how hard it is to find a domain, that's a .com that hasn't been taken yet? No one has taken SlowMaxxing as a freaking domain, even though there's been articles written about it and all that stuff. And I was like, no way. So I bought the domain. It's like $11 for the year. And so I bought the domain, and then I went over, my friend Morgan told me, he goes, oh, Printful is a really good store. So I went to Printful and I designed a t-shirt that you can get it in dark gray, and they're lightweight, thin cotton t-shirt. Dark gray or white is the base color of the t-shirt, one or the other. And then it says slow in cursive in light blue. So it's like really relaxing looking, slow. And then under it, it says maxing in how Maxxis tires, MAXXING, in this kind of bold font in orange. So the contrast looks awesome, and the t-shirt looks awesome. And just looking at it, you're like, what? It's like a speed slothing or something, you're like, what? It's pretty funny. And so I just did whatever it suggested. Was I think the t-shirts are like 20 something bucks, and because it's like whatever the t-shirts cost plus a 30% markup for me, that came up with the idea and put them out there. So you could go find these t-shirts at zenendurance.com. endurance.printful.me, and because they do a virtual store for you, and it's on demand printing. And so well, I don't have to get a whole bunch of shirts made up. And then I haven't gotten around to buying a shirt yet. I was waiting to get a paycheck, and we just got paid, so I'm gonna probably go buy one now. And I cannot wait to wear it to work. We have t-shirts on Friday. I'm gonna wear my SlowMaxxing t-shirt. And I'm sure I've got to get some looks like, what are you trying to say? I'm like, I just do things at the right pace. I do things right, and I own my space. And I'm like, yeah, like, Emily, come on, we got to hurry up. We got to go. And they go, I go, we got to hurry. I go, I don't hurry. You know, there's this thing where you hit a certain age as a guy, especially, where you're just like, no, I don't. I do things at the right pace, and I do things at my pace. I don't have a lot of years left, and so I'm going to do things the right way now. And I'm tired of like being performative for other people. I know how to do things right. It's like if you're building something by hand, you know, you don't rush through it. You like say you're putting together a bicycle. You got a bicycle in a box, and it's got all these parts, right? Are you going to rush through it and put it together as fast as you can? Or you could be like, man, I'm going to put this thing together and make sure I grease every bolt and put the thing together right. And maybe I'll learn something while I'm putting it together and appreciate the putting together of the bike and do things correctly and not rush through it, you know, because it's going to be a bike that I ride, and I want to make sure it's done right. Okay, so yeah, SlowMaxxing, just go look at it and give me feedback on what you think. Is it a cool looking t-shirt or not? I think it's really cool looking. And then it's at zenendurance.printful.me, and then at patreon.com/zentry is the members only area of, you can see like some listing of what's in there, but then you can't get to it without being a members only. But I was looking at like Ryan Van Duzer and stuff, and this guy is amazing, and he does all these kind of bike adventure stuff, and he puts early access things behind the paywall and then does some merch. And then I'm like, that's the model, you know? And also I do coaching. I do full on triathlon coaching, or any kind of coaching, endurance coaching. Like I said, I've been doing this stuff forever. I'm a certified Ironman coach, or USA Triathlon, coach. And also I coach in a way that's like sustainable and slowly build you up and get you to where you need to be, and teach you. Like, my one goal is to teach you how to train yourself. So you only have to get coached by me for 1 year, and then you will be able, it's like the best investment you'll ever make, because then you can coach yourself for the rest of your life. Because I will tell you what we're doing so that if you want to, you can coach yourself. And I'll tell you the whole science behind it, because I think the science is amazing. And that's $250 a month for full on coaching, and then $100 a month for just calls and to like review your own training plan that you come up with, and I'll give you advice on, you know, how to tweak it. And for that, you can email me at texafornia@gmail.com. Okay, so that's enough of the promos and all that stuff. Oh, and put coaching in the subject line, or in somewhere in the body. That's what I search for on Gmail. Anyway, the other thing is, yeah, let's wrap up with this bike thing that Kai and I are doing. So Kai and I, it started off with Kai found out that there's an Overland 4x4 truck, you know, Jeep trail thing out in central Texas near Fredericksburg in the hill country and Enchanted Rock. It's really beautiful out there. It's rugged, it's desert-ish, and scrubby and steep and gnarly kind of terrain. And there's this kind of lame 4x4 overland route that's really not that technical, but you know what that makes for? That makes for great gravel riding. So it's 50% pavement, 50% gravel. And he and his friend, and a little bit of, it's got some water crossings across these rivers back and forth, where you got to drive, you know, up to the frame. You need a high clearance 4x4 to be totally safe. And then the thing is, he and his friend Evan was in the Lexus version of a Land Cruiser, and Kai was in his Nissan Xterra, and that's my old Nissan Xterra, and they overlanded, and they did it over 2 days, I think, and they camped somewhere or did something, I don't know. But this was like a year or so ago, and Kai came back, and this thing is freaking awesome. It's so great. It's not too technical. It's just a lot of fun. You get to see like all this terrain, and it's beautiful. And then I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And I said, yeah, we should do this as a, we should set it up as it was maybe it had been Kai's idea, set this up as a bike challenge. You know, we come up with a course using that, and kind of like the Kokopelli Trail or the White Rim Trail, like in Moab, Utah kind of area. We set this up as a bike route, an established known bike route, and then people could start trying to do fastest known times on it, and we'll do it first. And because we do it first, we'll have the FKT on it. And Kai's, eyes like lit up like, oh, whoa, that'd be really cool. So that was the goal at first. And that was like a year ago. We started thinking about it. And then, and Kai's going off to college, and I've got work and all this other stuff. And then in the meantime, I did the East Texas 400. And while I was there was talk about this other route, the Central Texas Showdown, Slowdown, whatever. And I started asking questions. I'm like, where is this exactly? And they were telling me, and I'm like, man, that sounds really kind of in that same area that this 4x4 route thing is. And then I also asked people that were talking about it. I go, have you done it before? And they were like, yeah. And I go, what do you think of the course? And they go, oh, it was great. And I go, was it safe? Because that's a big thing. Was it safe? Oh yeah, totally safe. Hardly any cars. It's really cool. It's really pretty great. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I did the East Texas, well, I tried to do the East Texas 400. My bike broke. And then I was like, this is this event that this guy puts on, Bikes or Death podcast puts on. This is legit. This is like good. And there's a lot of people, and it's a good environment and whatever. Yeah, okay. So, all right, maybe I'll do this Central Texas Showdown that's kind of in the same area. And then I figured out that it's the 200-mile version, because they have all these different lengths of it, is pretty much the exact same course as the one that Kai was doing with his friend, that we were thinking about doing on our own. And then, so I got the bug to do a bike packing thing and do the Central Texas one, and Kai too. And we were talking about racing it, to see how fast we could do it. And then it turns out that we can't, because Kai has class, and he's in college. And so like, we can't get there and be ready in time to kick off and do this thing. And Kai doesn't have overnight bike packing experience, and I barely have any, but we've done tons of backpacking and high adventure stuff. But, so it's like, well, maybe, we'll just do it on our own. And what I did is, and this video is up on the patreon.com/ZenTri members only area right now, of me explaining the entire route. But basically it's this. I figured out that I could use the route that's officially GPSed as a bike route for it's like 180 miles or whatever of the Central Texas Showdown, Slowdown, whatever they call it, route, right? And get that onto our bike computers. And then we go on a weekend that is good for us to go. And their start and finish is like, if it makes a big circle, an elongated circle east to west, is their top dead center is their start point in a town called Castell. So, well, if we're going to do this on our own, we don't have to start there. We can start wherever we want. And so Llano, Texas is the eastern end of this thing. And so we started coming up with this, like, okay, what if we start in Llano, Texas? And there's all these videos online of people doing 4x4 vehicles and stuff and driving this thing, and how they camped overnight and all this stuff. And several videos talked about they camped on this island for free. That's it's more of like a big gravel sandbank with some scrub on it in the middle of the Llano River at some point. And so I'm watching these videos, and I do mapping for a living. So I'm like, man, I bet you I can figure out where this island is. And it turns out, and we live 3 hours east of all this, right? We live 3 hours east of the easternmost point of this. So if we drive 3 hours west, then to Llano, then we could start in Llano, right? And then do this bike course. Oh, and then also now we're previewing it and seeing if we like it, and like know all the what they call beta, all the information about it for next year in case we decide to really race it, and because that would be really cool. And the thing was, if we start in Llano and go west clockwise, and then we make this offshoot to go get water, that's going to add 16 miles to the course, unfortunately. Because I don't trust where the water, and it's really dangerous and rugged out there and can be really treacherous. So we're going to go, at first it was going to be 80 something miles to get to the far end, to this island that turns out it's on the far western end. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So halfway through is the island, so we could camp on there overnight. And then the next day, ride the 80 something miles back, the rest of the loop, back through Castell, and then get back to Llano, Texas, back to our vehicle, and get in our vehicle and then drive home, and have a really good father-son 2-day weekend of camping on this island, bike packing, and all this other stuff. And then we're going to be on our own, though, totally on our own. And this isn't like the East Texas pine forest where there's people and there's civilization of sorts, and there's churches and stuff like that with water spigots on the side, and little state parks everywhere where you can get water. This is nuts. This is like Wile E. Coyote kind of looking territory. And so it's like, and we're going to be on our own. And I was like, man, dude, if something happens while we're out there, we're effed, dude, And then it kind of came up like, hey, Emily, would you like to drive? I have a 4-wheel drive pickup truck. Would you like to drive the 4-wheel drive Overland Trail? And it's not that technical or anything, but it's just beautiful. And you could be our support vehicle in case something goes wrong. And then when we get to that island, we can all camp on the island overnight as a family for fun. And then you can overland support us the rest of the way. And then because it's an off-road trail and it's so pretty and stuff like that, it won't suck that bad, just driving a vehicle all day. You're going to see all kinds of horses and probably bison and like the scenery, and you take photos and just have a blast and take little offshoots, stuff like that. And there's going to be some high or low water crossings and stuff. And it'll be fun. People drive this route just to drive it. So it is pretty cool. And she was like, at first she was kind of like, and then she thought about it some more. She's like, y'all are going to be really out there. Like, it's dangerous. And we're like, yeah, it's not the dumbest idea for you to actually be out there as a support vehicle in case, seriously, like we could be 80, 100 miles from the car and then we break down. And how in the hell are we going to get out of there? Like, we don't know. And it's pretty freaking remote. And so she was like, yeah, okay. Yeah. I think that's actually probably pretty smart. And then we can have fun. And so then we're doing that. And then also it turns out that where that island is, the road crosses the river. There's this island in the middle of the river. The road, goes across the island too. And then as it climbs out of the river, there's an RV park. I haven't seen it personally, so I don't know if it's big or small or tiny or, crappy or nice or whatever. But right next to it is what they call an ice house, which is like a beer. They serve cold beer and maybe some food. And Kai just turned 21 like a week ago. And so this is like, oh my gosh, we could bike there. Kai and I bike 100 miles to this island. We set up camp, probably just go straight, drop our bikes off, and then go up and get some dinner and and some beer at this ice house, go back to the island, spend the night on the island overnight, and then drive the rest of the way home. And what a freaking cool weekend this will be. And we're bike packing all this and whatever, and we're doing it on our own because we can't do it at the same time that the race actually starts. Because the race starts, what I'm about to tell you. Oh, and for the bike packing adventure, because I figured out how to film everything, and unless something goes wrong, that's going to be like an hour, 2 hour video. I'll probably break it up into pieces of our bike packing trip out there to camp on an island overnight, and then the camping, and then the bike return trip, and everything that goes wrong, everything that goes right, and just all kinds of fun and chaos. You know, Emily gets my truck stuck in the river or something like that, and me pretending like I'm not mad, and Kai's tire going flat, or like my bike breaking, and like I've sunk so much into this, you know. I'd be like that guy forever ago. Those of y'all that have been on Ironman forever, the German guy, I forgot his name, that Stadler, that like threw his bike into the bushes. And in German, he's like, "Da!" He sounded like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like "Da!" and like broke down crying on the side of the road. You know, it's both going to be easy and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be even harder if the weather sucks. So, yeah, okay. Be looking for a video of that, and also Instagram. All the time on Instagram, I'm posting what we're doing, and a little short video clips. Like this morning, I went running, and I posted a short video. We're running 6 miles. It's in the dark. Look at the moonlight. Isn't it pretty? You can follow Zen in the Art of Endurance, Zen Tri on Instagram, Zen Triathlon on Instagram, Zen in the Art of Endurance, Zen Endurance on YouTube, and here, Zen in the Art of Endurance on the podcast. And just like, I really enjoy finding out more about how to do this long distance ultra sport life. And that's what it's all here for. So anyway, we're like trying to figure out when's the best weekend for this. And we're going to have to start on a Saturday. Yeah. Oh, because Emily needs to work Friday. Kai's got to go to class Thursday. So we have to get there to Lano Friday night, and then we start biking Saturday morning, and then and do 2 days, right? And so we start figuring out what's the best day, and Kai's girlfriend might come and stuff like that. So we're like, what's the best weekend? And then it took a few days for everybody to kind of figure everything out. And they're like, okay, the best day for us to do this is the weekend of October 24th, 25th, something like that. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I have to use this web page thing, internal website, you know, to ask for days off. And I put on the calendar, can I have these days off from work? And then as I hit send to ask these days off, because I'm going to take a day off around this so that I got time to pack up to get out there, because I'm the one that's kind of engineering and organizing this insanity. And so I'm like, okay, what? Oh, so I ask off, and then I'm like, what day is the actual Central Texas Showdown race? That's the big bike packing event that gave us kind of the inspiration that this is a bikeable thing that we eventually want to do. We just can't do it because we can't start the same day that they start. So it turns out it's the exact same freaking weekend. So, but they're starting on Friday morning in Castell, and then there's like I don't know what the different routes are, but there's like a, 30 mile, let's say 80 mile or something like that. And then like 100 mile, and then the 200-ish miler route that we're going to do, but we're starting a day later and about 50 miles further down. We're starting in Lano, and they're starting in Castell. And then there's like a 300 mile, and then there's a 500 mile one. So the chances of us running into cyclists is real, but we're starting a day later, and we're starting from a different town. But it just turns out that's the way it has to be, or else we can't do this at all this year. And so what's going to happen is there's going to be a bunch of people out on the race course at the same time we are. And I'm taking it in stride. I'm like, dude, that's going to make that fun. And I told Emily, I said, Emily, don't be rescuing everybody out there, because if we need rescuing or we need water or something like that, and you're dropping off people, 100 miles away back, you're our support vehicle. Remember that you help people, but like we still need, you're our support vehicle. And also you gotta be careful, like don't hit anybody out there. What a disaster that would be. But it's gonna be wild. And the thing is about the Central Texas one again, is there is so few gas stations and so little water that this is a different kind of race than the East Texas one. The East Texas one, there was water in a gas station probably every 20, 30 miles. This, we're talking about water every 50 miles and maybe a gas station every 100 miles. So this is like, because now we're getting out in the part of Texas where just like nobody lives, and or very few people. Well, pretty much nobody. And that's what's I'm kind of running out of things to say about this. I'm just like so excited. That's what it's going to be like. It seems to be on track. We're 2 or 3 weeks. I think we're 3 weeks out from it as I'm talking right now. The room I'm in is a spare room at our house. It's Kai's old bedroom because he's gone off to college. And we're going to use this room as our staging area to start collecting all the gear and everything. So like spare chains, tire sealant, a blaster pump in case we have to blow a tire back on, rubber mallet, chain braking tools, and then also the camping gear to put. We're going to try to do as much on our bikes as possible, right? Because originally this started off as a bikepacking trip. And I don't want us to strip the bikes down to just the bikes and then Emily carries all the stuff in the truck. We need to be practicing for bikepacking and turn this into bikepacking. And so we're going to try to carry as much as we can on the bikes. And then what we can't fit on the bikes, and any kind of emergency equipment on the truck. Because also I have, I don't call it belief. I call it knowledge that, and just good practice is train. By the time you spent so much time training for something and it's big, you've sunk so much time and money into, and many other things, so many sacrifices to make this happen that you don't want it. Like I was so bummed when my rear derailleur broke 100 miles in, and then my whole thing was over. And I've been training for it forever, and I had all this equipment and all this stuff. I'd spent a pretty good amount of money, like, getting the bike ready and all this equipment and all this stuff. And then for it to be over because my bike broke, yeah, I'm out and I'm over, and that's the way racing, well, whatever events go. But also you should, if you're going to do something big and fun, you should have a plan B in case something goes sideways and you still make it worth it. Because the bigger and longer something is, the higher the risk is that something's going to go wrong. You snap your chain, and if you don't know how to change a chain, or you don't have a chain breaker tool or something like that, then what? Your whole thing's over. And what if you snap the chain like 30 miles in, So if you can, if it really matters to you for you to finish the thing, then bring stuff with you, or a support vehicle, or have a way to be able to fix your stuff so that you can keep going. And because the real point is to do the thing. And then the point about sticking exactly to the rules and stuff like that, if something goes sideways with your bike, well, then you have an asterisk, well, I got help from somebody, or we had a support vehicle. But then also what we want to do is figure out, also, I'm going to keep a checklist of all the stuff that didn't work the way that we thought it was going to work. And that'll be funny for podcast content of this battery charger and these bike computers and the tent that we chose and, the weather forecast and the lights that we're using and the mapping, the tires, the sealant, recharging batteries overnight for the bike computers, and then what worked and what didn't, so that when we do this without a support vehicle the next year, then what is worth bringing extra of, what did we forget, what would be smart to bring that we just didn't even think of. And so in the truck, there'll be extra of everything. And then we're going to try to use none of it. And then what we do have to use, then we go, okay, well, that's something that if we did this without a support vehicle, that we would actually have to carry on the bike. But what did we carry on the bike that we never used? And then that way we know that we don't need that. And that'll make room for the thing that we actually did need. And then, but then the whole time it's just like casual and fun. And we're going to slow max the F out of this freaking thing and just have a really, really good time. And just to finally wrap it up, there's that. And then Kai told me that he wants to race the marathon mountain biking winter race season. And then that turns into gravel racing in the spring. And he's transferred to A&M, but he's not on the A&M cycling team, but he was on the Texas State cycling team. So he's not racing collegiate this year. He's just doing straight up regular racing as a non-collegiate, like pro, elite, for whatever he wants to enter in. And then I was like, God damn it, dude. Then that means I'm going to have to do this stuff too. And he's like, you don't have to do it, Dad. I'm like, dude, marathon mountain biking is so much fun. It is so hard. It's so ridiculous. You feel like you've been in a 4 or 5 hour car wreck, by the time you're done with this thing. And it takes pacing and endurance and like training and like all this stuff and bike handling skills. It's freaking amazing. And then, if he does the gravel racing, both of those things, what I do is I start off in the back, and then the pro wave like takes off in the front, and they just disappear over the horizon. And then the rest of us normal people just try to like have a nice ride, and it turns into a race against those around you. And so that's what's going on this fall. Depending on my running, I might do some Rocky Raccoon, the local ultra marathon. One thing I'd really like to do is a backyard ultra. That's where you run laps, and each lap is 4 something miles, and you have to run it in an hour, which sounds easy, but then it just never stops. And if you do it for 24 hours, they make you stop, and you can't start again until it hits 1 hour, that 4-mile loop. Turns out that's 100 miles in a day, in 24 hours. And when I ran 100 miles, it was rough weather and cold and rugged and stuff, and it took me 26 hours. So I'd like to break 24 hours running 100 milers. So I want to do a backyard ultra, because that way they pace you and make sure that you do it. And then I will have run 100 miles in 24 hours. I think that's really freaking cool. And there's one near here that's relatively flat, so that would be kind of cool. And then there's always triathlons that I can do. And there's a big open water swim. I think it's over by now at Lake Conroe, a 10K open water swim. And, just the regular random stuff that just kind of pops up. But I'm at to talk about philosophy and just training in general, I'm at a point where I'm really happy right now. Training at the half, somewhere between the half and Ironman level. And then on the weekends, because everything's been about supporting Kai, his early career racing pro and stuff. So my racing has taken a background. I just go do the stuff that he does, and then I just do it for fun at his pace. Oh, we've done a relay. We did night mountain bike racing. Oh my God. Don't do that. Racing mountain bikes at night with lights is so dumb, but is so wild. It's like pretty freaking crazy. Don't do that. 4 hour, 6 hour race. I don't know. God, oh my God, it was crazy. I crashed so hard, and then because we needed to buy lights, so we bought Kai the more expensive lights because he's freaking pro category. He's riding at the front. And so I got these crappy lights, and so I couldn't see for shit. And then freaking crashing and stuff. And then, but it was still fun. And what was the other thing? I saw a turkey trot race. Oh, well, yeah, I guess I was gonna wrap up by saying I'm really happy riding I want to do this bike packing thing because I've never done a full overnight bike packing successfully. And then because once you start getting into multi-day, get to 300, 400 miles, now you're getting into like Ironman level, endurance, and all this experience I have doing that stuff really starts to pay off about how to fuel, how to recover, how to pace yourself. And I think I'd actually be pretty decent at it with all my experience because I did, like I said, I did an Ultraman, which is a 3-day freaking triple Ironman. And so, and I did it, like, it was fine. Like, I actually really enjoyed it. And then, so I know how to do these things because I train all the time. I know how to recover. So it's like day after day after day is a skill that I think I know how to do pretty well. So, well, you don't know until you do it. And then, so I want to try it and like enjoy myself. And I want to slow max the F out of this thing. And then the other thing is, so I've hit this status quo of swimming 3 days a week and swimming between 3,500 and 4,000 yards, 3 days, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, running 3 to 4 days a week, with a long run on the weekend of somewhere between 9 and 12 miles. Lately it's been 12. And then biking several times during the week. And one of those bike rides is a long bike ride on the weekend on this incredible gravel route. It's like 50-50 gravel pavement route that I go down to the Navasota River bottom and I go to the Brazos River and I'm in all these woods and I see all these crazy animals and I get chased by dogs and see snakes and all this other stuff. And it is the highlight of my week. So I've hit like this plateau, but it's like heaven of like this volume of training that's about 15 hours a week, somewhere between 12 and 15 hours a week easily, just all the time. And then I can do marathon mountain biking and I can do, backyard ultra. I can do whatever, gravel racing. If something big swimming showed up, I would totally do that. I'd really enjoy that. And then, so that's where I'm at as far as, what I'm doing, like goal wise is to try to maintain this as long as possible because it's freaking awesome. And I talk about this every once in a while in my shows or on my videos or whatever. It's like, you do all this, I'm going to leave y'all with this. You do all the racing to figure out how to get good at this stuff, right? Because racing is the hammer and the anvil, it's like to keep, you're with other people that are good or they're trying to be good. And so you kind of, it's the hammering brass and the pure gold, like it turns you into a real athlete, all the racing. And then after years and years of racing and you kind of figured out how to do it and how to be successful with it, this is a phenomenon I've seen on Slow Twitch, the forums and everything, where people talk about, man, I've raced so much, but now I've gotten to the point where I enjoy the training so much. I don't want to stop training just to race. The whole taper and everything. I'd rather just have a nice training weekend than go do a race. And I think that this is my all figured out moment. We'll visit this later and see how right I am. The end game is to actually use the racing to fall in love with the training, because it's the training that actually makes you healthy. And then with the training, then on occasion, you go race, but the training is so much fun that I can go do anything with anybody. And it's like another level up of the racing is no longer the focus of everything. I remember, and like the training and is the actual end goal. And racing, you can actually get hurt, right? Because you're going as fast as you can. And and you don't want to ruin your love of the training, And so I remember a few times Kai has said, Dad, why don't you race this race? And I go, I am racing it. He's like, no, like race it, like go as fast as you possibly can. And he's like, and I go, no, I'm going as fast as I possibly can. He goes, no, you're not. I know you're not. Like, okay, yeah, and then so like for a few of the mountain bike races, I did go as fast as I possibly could. And I did and like the gravel racing, the single speed. On one race I did on geared, I went as fast as I possibly could and got podium or something like that, And so, yeah, I'll race like really hard on occasion. But just leaving you with this, one thing I do, and one reason you listen to the show is with the philosophy of why we do this stuff and like how to do it, but also so that it's sustainable, so that you can create a lifestyle around it and do it all the time. And then you can become an endurance athlete, not just to race, but to be like, if you're an endurance athlete and you've been doing it a while, you, compared to other people your age, once you start getting older, you are like Superman compared to other people because of your fitness and your just overall flexibility and body strength, just average body strength. Well, other people around you getting older, start falling apart. You don't. You end up feeling like you're 20 years old and everything still works great and you're, strong and healthy and all that other stuff. And it's a wonderful place to be. And then because you have a nice, healthy hobby and you're outside running trails and running with your dog and biking, in the countryside, and you've got healthy goals, and it forces you to eat a little bit healthier or a lot healthier. And also, yeah, your aerobic system is fitter. You go to the doctor and they're like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're like totally healthy. And you're like, oh, wow, that's cool. And then you talk to other people. I'm 50 now, 52. And like, dude, yeah, everybody around me is falling apart and I'm doing pretty good. I've got little injuries and stuff here and little issues kind of here and there. But in general, and then my mind is like super clear. And while I'm out working out on these long rides and long bike rides and runs, and even on swim, I'm listening to podcasts and philosophy stuff and learning science and news. And you gotta stay away from the news, Jesus Christ. And then the just like the state that you can be in is so wonderful. I wish that I could live. This is the first time I've said this out loud. I really wish that I could live forever. Who wants to live forever? Like Highlander. Because living forever is kind of like a curse, It's like everybody around you dies and like it just sucks. But I really in a way, I kind of wish that I could live forever because I think I figured it out. This is my all figured out moment. This is wonderful. This is so wonderful to have a nice work-life balance. But also I go race and do stuff kind of when I want to. I'm healthy and I'm fit and just everything's just wonderful. And I want you to keep listening to this show and this podcast and go and watch the YouTube videos and watch the fun that I'm having out there and become part of the gang and just enjoy it and watch the YouTube stuff. And hopefully the plan is if the YouTube thing takes off enough where I can make enough off of it, and we're talking, it's going to take way more people, like, 10,000 or something like that. And we're at half that. So this is going to be a long-term project, but we can get enough people and everything where we can continue this on. And then I'll be able to retire from work years from now, but have enough supplemental income from doing this kind of stuff and promoting this and getting everybody interested for your sake, but that with sponsors and whatever comes my way, I could retire actually a little bit earlier and do more of this instead of trying to fit this around work. We could just do this like all the freaking time. And then what I always do is once I figure out how to do something, I'll tell everybody else how to do it too. So while I'm doing it, I'll be telling y'all about how to do it, how to minimize your impact from work on your stress so that you can go out and bike and stuff, and how to retire early, or like how to fit in swimming with work, or like how I negotiated this amount of time off from work, or how I managed this one project so that I could go get these bike rides done or go to these races and stuff like that. I'll share all that with you guys. And I already have. I've talked about like how I went and asked off for this race 2 days earlier. Let me talk about that. Yeah, well, this will be the last thing. So what I did was, we're going to start Saturday morning. So what I did was I asked off all day Friday, and I think Thursday, because I've worked the same job long enough where I get a couple of extra vacation days, more than like when you first start. In America, you get 2 weeks vacation usually, if that. And then if you work a place a long time, some companies give you more. And I think I get 3 weeks vacation a year. And so I get these extra vacation days. So I'm like, I'm going to take Thursday and Friday off of work. And Thursday, I'll start getting stuff ready. Friday, really finish getting stuff ready and load up the vehicle. Emily gets off work Friday evening, Friday afternoon, and then we make the 3-hour drive to Lano. But the thing is I've learned the last minute stuff about getting stuff ready for a race or bikepacking event, quote unquote, is it's stressful, and I SlowMax, right? And that's what I figured out is like, I'm taking off those 2 days so that I can get everything ready without being in a rush. Because like I said, I'm at the point now where I've learned that rushing things makes things not fun. So let's do it. I'm going to take off 2 days, and it's like this. And then as I'm trying to get the last things together, I'm not like panicking, running around trying to get everything together. And like this Friday, I'm taking off a day off from work, and I'm going to go bike ride with Kai in the morning. And what am I doing in the afternoon? Nothing. I'm just going to do nothing and enjoy it. I'll probably end up editing a podcast or something like that. Okay, that's it. That's been our big catch up. What we're going to look for in future shows is topics like how to deal with anxiety, how to deal more with like difficult people, training tips, how to do intervals on using the hills for intervals. What's the latest in lactate testing and the results from Ironman Hawaii, the women's pro race, and how did they race differently than the guys? It's kind of hard to compare because it's 2 different locations, but you know, what's the difference? They used to race completely differently. Women would not be combative, and guys would be. Guys are risk takers. And so women used to be much more conservative and like much more like they're smarter. They won't overreact. Guys have what they call testosterone poisoning, and they'll overreact. And the guy takes off, and they're like, "Oh, I gotta go with him." Duh. You know, it's like, no, you don't, dude. You don't have to. And then, but women now are so good and are so overly physically strong that they can now do that too. And like if a woman takes off, they'll do bike combat and run combat with each other. And like a really cool historical fact is women's bike racing has been a thing for like 100 and something years. People long, like let's say 100 years ago, used to go watch women's bike racing, like in downtown New York at like Central Park or something. I don't know, these different places, because it was freaking crazy, because people think that women let's say especially back then, are all ladylike and all this other stuff. So to see women's true nature, of course they're freaking competitive and they're athletic as hell, dude. And so they're like, to see women doing bike combat with each other, like a circuit racing, like crit racing, like blew people's minds. You know, it's kind of like a roller derby, right? You're just like, these are women, but they're beating the crap out of each other. Or women like in the UFC. It's like, wait, women can be like this? And it's like, yeah, dude, they're freaking badass, man. And don't underestimate them. And that's what makes it like so much fun to watch. So women's racing has been like actually really hardcore and competitive for a long time. And in game theory, there's been this thing that, well, women are like, they take fewer risks than guys because they don't have as much testosterone. But I think that that's not exactly as true as people thought it was. I think what people assumed that about women, and then it turns out it's not so true, that if the stakes are high enough and the competitive level is high enough and people really want it, then everybody acts the same. Guys and girls alike act exactly the same. And that should be no surprise, actually, when you think about it. So yeah, there's that. So that's what we're going to have in podcasts coming up. So stay tuned. And then in the podcast coming up, I'll also list off different videos that I've made and tell you where to go find them. And then also I can easily drop audio from the videos into a podcast, and you can listen to it. And my last final tip is, you can, these long bike rides that I've got, there's 2 or 3 that are up there, or long runs that are up there on YouTube. If you buy, I hate to have to say this, but if you buy YouTube Premium, you can close the screen on your phone and YouTube will keep playing. If you don't have YouTube Premium, if you have free YouTube, if you close the screen on your phone, the audio stops too. So for years, I've had YouTube Premium because I can listen to the Tour de France, I can listen to Ironman this, I can listen to whatever, I can listen to long form YouTube videos with my phone in my pocket. And so I could listen to, you could listen to my bike ride where I do it'll be like an hour and a half, but of the best parts of a 3-hour bike ride. But I'm talking about the recall on this thing and the latest race results, but also the Zen practice of like, how does Zen deal with karma, or something, some interesting topics. And then also petting a donkey, that we feed Ezekiel the donkey in the area some carrots and stuff, and all that, like a classic podcast thing. You can listen to it just like it's an audio podcast, but on YouTube, if you buy YouTube Premium. I don't get any of this, I'm just letting you know. If you buy YouTube Premium, you just close the screen on your phone, and the battery life is like fantastic. If it's not playing the video like on your screen, if it's just playing the audio, battery life is nuts. It's like amazing. And that's actually what I listen to a lot of stuff on. So if you want to listen to some of the long form stuff, the video, as if it's an audio podcast while you're out on a bike ride or on a run, that's how you do it. Okay. I'll be back soon with more stuff. This has just been a big update. So everybody stay safe out there. Work the uphills, cruise the downhills, and keep the rubber side down. Out.